there was this one time my finger was just hurting for a long time. I didn't understand what was going on. And then I got this balm that like pulls stuff out of your finger or whatever. And so it blistered out, the blister popped, and there's this little thing that's sticking out. And I couldn't see it. And it was just so small. She grabbed tweezers and she pulls it out. And it's like, you know, I don't know, like a 1/4 inch long, just right in front of my finger.
Today on the Untied podcast, we have an amazing guest for you today. Today we are interviewing Chris Piazza of CannaDevices. He is the co-founder or the founder of CannaDevices.
Co-founder, you're right.
Co-founder, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Co-founder of CannaDevices. He knows so much about the different devices that you can use and everything. I'll let him tell you more about it because, I mean, just like when we were talking over the phone, I was like, we have to interview this guy. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
So let's start from the beginning where you started, like the idea for CannaDevices.
Right on. Cool. Well, so it kind of goes a little bit before CannaDevices itself. I'm a glass blower by trade. So I learned how to blow glass back in 2008 and was doing that on my own. I've worked in the scientific field, things like that. But then, I had my own studio, taught glass, all sorts of stuff like that. And one of my buddies moved from owning a couple head shops to working in the dispensary field. And he was doing wholesale cannabis for dispensaries. And we worked together a couple other times prior. We had our own school together and things like that. And he came to me and he said, hey, there's this need. These dispensaries don't have American glass. They just have the same stuff you're getting at a gas station. And this just doesn't look right. And I said to him, I said, well, we've all been trying to sell to dispensaries for a long time and none of them are interested. Like, how are we going to do this? And he said, well, I'm in the industry now. I have all these contacts. Let's see what we can do. And that's how CannaDevices started, like having a coffee at Starbucks, two glass blowers that have been in the industry for a long time, over 30 years combined. And we just had this idea and we went for it. So yeah, it's been pretty cool.
That's awesome. And so you've been doing that since what year did that start?
2008.
So I mean, I can't blow glass.
Oh yeah,
but I'll see those videos on like TikTok of people blowing the glass and like making these like crazy different things. I'm like, it's insane. Like I'll just sit there and like 4 hours of my day is gone just watching those.
Well, so I'm curious how you got into blowing glass. Were you blowing balloons as a kid and you're like, I can do this, but it's something way cooler?
Dude, how did you know? No,
it makes sense.
No, honestly, so when I was like 14, 15, this kid came to, our little smoking area before we go into school, right? This kid came that had been to a fish show, right? And he had a trench coat on. Before trench coats had a bad connotation because I'm old. This was just how he carried all these pipes over. And he showed us, like, he started selling them, right? And I bought one immediately. And we went and smoked before class. And I'm looking at it. And we packed the bowl. And I don't even pass it, right? I'm just, like, staring at it. Like, this thing's incredible. This is beautiful. Everybody's like, oh, man, like, let's go. We got to get to class. Just hit it and pass it. And, I'm all stoned there. And I'm like, this is what I want to do in the future. Like, this is what I want to do. And everybody laughed at me and all that. Fast forward, I was doing some seasonal work working for a ski resort out in Colorado and ended up just shooting an email, or not even email. It was on a forum. It was before Facebook. There was a forum called glasspipes.org. And I just put a post there. I said, hey, I'm just about done with my seasonal work. I'm in Summit County. Would love to get an apprenticeship in Denver. And somebody responded to me, Ron Glass, RONEGLASS. He ended up being my teacher and got in with him. And about a year and a half of apprenticeship under Ron Glass got me started.
Oh my God. That's it's kind of funny that you like everyone has that, I guess, friend or high school partner for like for all your friends it was you,
Yeah.
but like the friend in the puffy jacket that has like cigarettes, weed, Adderall, whatever.
Yeah, I guess that was me.
But your friend just had glass, like glass pieces, physical glass pieces, which I find hilarious.
Yeah, when we first met, I would always wear this giant puffy winter coat, which
It's like a sleeping bag.
it is, but my dad got it for me. He like my mom one winter was like, all right, he needs new winter clothes, go take him. And my dad and I were like going to the mall and we put on a bunch of different jackets. And I was like, I like this one. He goes, no, get this one. And it was just too big. I was like 12. I still wear it. And he was like, you get it big and you'll grow into it. And then the boots are like a size like 12. I'm still not even a size 12, like foot. And he was like, you'll grow into it. Like, and I was like, okay. And like, it was just like all that. And I still wear the same shit today, but it has literally 20 pockets on it. So like we would be outside of Second City when we were doing like improv shows and stuff. And we'd be standing out front and I'd be like, does anyone want to smoke? And I'd like pull a joint out or like pull something out and pack a bowl. And like,
Or like gum, Doritos.
yeah, I'd be like, I was like, has anyone got dry
footlong,
mouth? I'm like, here's gum.
Yeah.
Anyone got the munchies? Here's a bag of Doritos. It's also my movie theater
a
jacket.
Gatorade? Yeah.
Like,
Nice.
It just keeps going. All right. So working with glass since 2008, this might be a weird question, but if someone drops a bottle and breaks glass, they get a shard of glass in them and they simply like never get it out. So how many shards of glass do you have in your body right now?
Oh man. I don't have any because I can get it out. How many times have I had to dig it out? I don't even know. My girl would tell a story. There was this one time my finger was just hurting for a long time. I didn't understand what was going on. And then I got this balm that like pulls stuff out of your finger or whatever. And so it blistered out, the blister popped, and there's this little thing that's sticking out. And I couldn't see it. And it was just so small. She grabbed tweezers and she pulls it out. And it's like, I don't know, like a 1/4 inch long, just right in the front of my finger. That was, she actually gained a lot of respect for me there. She's like, wow, you haven't been whining about this. I'm like, oh, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, it was some pretty gnarly ones, man, for sure.
Another day, another dollar, another glass shard in your finger, part of life.
yeah. I can't tell you the amount of times like someone's broken a bottle and I've been like, I probably still have shards of glass in my feet, like where I've just walked through like a party and like been like, oh, they're
where
like,
are you barefoot at a party?
like a pool party. Sort of
okay.
And like they're like, like we're outside or something, and I'm like barefoot and I step in it, and people would be like, you just walked through like a pile of glass. And I'm like, I didn't even know. Like, but like I can feel it sometimes if I step weird on my foot, I'll be like, oh, there's probably glass in there.
Nice.
But yeah. No, but that's awesome. The whole art of glass blowing. Like, how long did it take you? You started in 2008, glass blowing. How long did it take you to perfect glass blowing?
It's a lifelong process, man. I can say that. So when I first started, I had 2 jobs. I started my first job at like 2 a.m. And then my second job was at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then I'd go to the studio at noon and I'd work until about 8, go home, go to bed, start the day over. Within about 2 months, when my teacher was like, don't freaking quit your job, I was like, I think it's time to quit my job, and quit one of them. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? And then like a month later, I was like, yeah, so my boss told me to do something I didn't like. And I was like, all right, I'm out of here, and went full into glass about 4 months in. I don't recommend that to anybody. I was young and stupid, but made it work. It was a little bit extra. It was a little bit extra effort to be able to make it happen. But what I found is I am more of a production guy. So I'm more of a tradesman than an artist. I learned to make things uniform, fast, and efficiently. Like that's where I went in glass. I can't do anything like some of these crazy glass blowers that are making those $100,000 pieces and things like that. I mean, I love it. I love the art of it, but that's just not me. And that's kind of where I found my path into CannaDevices, because I understand glass. I've been doing it for a very long time, and I can help a lot of new guys get started. But I found that I'm just not the artist type that I thought I was when I was in my early 20s and just wanted to be. You know, you kind of get some truth as you get older sometimes, I guess.
This might be a really stupid question, but I'll follow my sword for it. What is glass, and like what is it made of?
It's made of silica and sand. So it's actually sand that's melted and then becomes glass. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff involved in it. If you want to have colors, there's cadmium, there's silver, gold, platinum, all sorts of different metals and things like that. But at its base, it's silica sand.
What's the most like dangerous, I guess, process of the glass blowing?
Hooking up the tanks and actually having, I mean, we have a bomb like in a room, essentially. We have a what's called a dewar. So it's a huge oxygen tank, liquid oxygen tank, and propane tanks, and multiple of all of them. And so if you don't hook that stuff up right, it's not safe. Yeah.
Couldn't imagine. That would be crazy.
So with I know that you guys specialize in glasses, but don't you guys also have other devices that you guys that sell? What can you walk us through some of the different devices and your recommendations for those?
Oh, dude, totally. So how the company started was we started with glass, right? And American glass, American artists. So we have over 65 that work for us at this point. What we found, though, was we were bringing something to the industry that a lot of people didn't even know they needed. And then they, I guess, liked working with us. And so they would ask us for other things that they knew they needed. Grinders, stick batteries just for cartridges, papers, things like that. And so as we started to see this, we realized, like, why don't we start just carrying all of this stuff that everybody needs anyways, right? And so we've evolved as a company to really be a select amount of products. We never go more than like a good, better, best. And we're not one of the companies that has like 500 grinders on their whatever on their website. We have our branded ones that we can custom brand for our customers. We got our high-end ones. We got a plastic one and a hemp one. That's it, So what I kind of lean towards is just finding a quality product, finding a quality brand to be behind. And the electronics, a lot of them, there's so many fly-by-night companies. So we've decided to partner with companies like a company called Dip Devices, who's been in the industry for a really long time. Before the big craze of concentrates and all this, they'd already been there, right? And so this is a company that, one, I believe in. I believe in the founders of that company, and they're amazing partners to be working with us. And those are the types of products we're going to bring on. We are not a company that's just going to bring on something to make money. I don't know. So we just try to have that quality stuff, and you can see it. If it's for sale at some bodega, it's probably just a cheap unit of whatever it is, right? Whether it be glass, electronic, or anything else. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
no, it does. I mean, I've definitely, like, in a pinch, especially when I'm traveling, bought in some cheap glass at a bodega. But
I usually just look for a guy in a puffy jacket to buy it from.
Yeah,
good,
just a glass.
Smart man.
Which is crazy because I was a guy in a puffy jacket and I never sold it. I was never making money on it. I was just had it. But you had mentioned some other cooler versions of the grinders, like the mills and things like that. Do you guys do those as well?
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, the flour mill. I met these guys about 3-4 months ago, and for one, again, like you'll hear a theme with me. The founders behind that company are the most amazing dudes. They're just awesome guys, great people to hang out with. But then their product is then next level too. So what it is a grinder cuts up the whatever, the flower, right? It cuts it up with sharp edges. What the mill does is it literally just pushes the flower against a grate, and what comes out the other side, if anybody's ever tried to break up a joint and you just kind of go like this with the bud, with the nug, like it all sort of breaks apart. And the flour mill sort of does that, but it doesn't get your oils from your skin or anything like that involved in the bud itself, breaking up the terpenes, crystals, all of that stuff. So the mill just pushes. What I think is just the mind-blowing part, maybe this is just, again, because I'm old, it keeps all the stems at the top. So it doesn't matter what kind, you can just take a huge nug, thick stem, everything, just throw it right in with the little tiny stems and everything. Just throw it in the mill, couple turns back and forth, and you got a bunch of stems at the top and your broken up bud at the bottom. It's just beautiful. Whatever they're doing, they were talking about the patent for a grinder was like from 1902, and they're the first ones to have a new patent on a grinder in like 100 and something years. Like, it's ridiculous.
Wow, that's insane.
So these
Sounds
are the
like
types
the
of guys
Cubs.
that are out there. Was that?
Yeah, so it sounds like the Cubs.
Yeah.
I mean, they sound more successful than the Cubs. Just
Yeah,
put that way.
especially this season. But you have an interesting backstory, because you're actually, so as much as you work around the cannabis industry, you're sober.
I am.
Completely. So, do you want to walk us through a little bit of your backstory and how you got to that?
For sure. So like I said, I bought my first pipe at 14, and I'd been doing things for a few years before that, right? So like I had an early start in messing around with things that I don't know, putting things up my nose and all sorts of weird stuff, right? But I had a lot of ups and downs between that point and 2008, and I was one that, if 1 is good, 2 is better, 3 is great, 10, let's do it. I don't know. I got way into psychedelics mainly. Like that was sort of that was just what worked for me. I didn't like going up or down. I liked going sideways, kind of how I described that. And I don't know. Yeah. Taking sips off of vials, not just drops, all sorts of crazy stuff. Right. And if you mess around with those things long enough and enough of them, you end up in a hugging jacket, we'll call it, right? A few too many times. And for me, it got to a point where, I don't know if anybody, you guys fans of the Doors, you guys like Morrison and all that? How I describe it to a lot of guys that understand that stuff is my doors of perception got burnt up. They were just gone. And so when I would smoke a little bit, I would just go on a full-on flight. It was more of a hallucinogenic experience than just getting high. And that just wasn't maintainable in normal life. If you could imagine, like every time taking a hit from a bull was like dropping a few hits of acid, like it just, that doesn't work. So I had to get to a place where kind of hit that bottom where I realized like, this isn't going to work for me, and got my nose clean. And yeah, ended up getting back. So that was in 2011. Ended up sort of separating from glass in the industry for about 6 months, but then very quickly after got back involved with glass. And I'm a part of, because I love the plant, I love the industry, I love the community, I love what it's about, I love everything else. And quite frankly, I love getting high. It just doesn't work for me. Right. And so I'm a huge advocate, and I don't know, I got plenty of experience with how to use different pipes, because I've been around it for so long. And yeah, it's the only way that I've been able to get to where I am today.
Well, that's really awesome. And I think it's really cool that you're still such an advocate, even after the fact. Because I mean, I talk to so many people who have like one bad experience and they're like, no, weed's awful, it's the worst, or like, things like that. And again, you had more than just, that experience with it. But at the same time, I do think it's very cool that you can still, come back to the industry and be an advocate after,
You know,
being like, it's not for me.
I appreciate what you're saying, and it's just sort of just kind of how the story goes, right? Like, if someone has like, if somebody's got some huge brewery or whatever, and they love brewing, just because they stop drinking, it doesn't mean they're going to stop what they love of brewing, right? And it's sort of the same concept for me. I was living in my car out in Colorado, it was pretty desolate for a while there, but yeah, pretty fortunate to have had the right people in my life and get things back in order. And yeah, I think it's kind of cool. I've actually been able to get connected with people. There's more people than you'd expect in our industry that love the plant and love everything about it and used to dabble in it and just don't anymore. Surprising, because I'm fairly open about it when I'm at events and things like that. And it's pretty cool how many responses I get. Like, dude, I'm actually in the same boat. Like, I don't know. It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Where do you think the cannabis industry is now? And like, do you think it'll ever be federally legal?
100%.
Yeah. Well, it's like, if you had to give it a timeline, I
say 5 to 8 years. So what I'm watching for, first thing I want to see is the Safe Banking Act, or if they rebrand it as something else. But the Safe Banking Act needs to be first. What we're going to see first is we're going to see the banks get opened up on a state-by-state basis. The federal government's going to say, this is just my thought. I think the federal government's going to say, okay, banks that are in legal states are allowed to handle the cash of the dispensaries. That's going to be the first sign. As soon as that sign occurs, we need to have a handful of years of watching that occur, get all the processes in place of how to handle these types of situations, get the electronic side of the industry implemented, so we don't have to be a cash-based business like we are today, nearly as much in a lot of states. And once that whole process unfolds and works out, the government's going to then see a true understanding of taxation and what availability they have and in the revenue that it can be producing. And it's also going to have a plan and structure. And then from there, that's when we're going to start to see the conversation about true federal legalization. Any federal legalization conversation that we have prior to banking, I think, is just, if you're in the stock market, sell the news type of situation for weed stocks, and that's not advice. It's just, whatever, for entertainment purposes. But like, that's what I see as the first notch that has to happen is the banking, and then we'll have the federal.
I mean, it sounds pretty legit to me, because we like our banks, I guess, here in the US, and
well, and I think it would be 10 times better if it was federally legalized, but that is every person I've talked to in the industry is like their biggest hold, being held back by the banking system is that, they just won't deal with it or anything like that because of the connotation, because it's not federal.
And then you have no funding, and then you have issues with funding. You have hard money lenders are the only ones that a lot of these companies can get money from, which are 20% interest rates, worse than a credit card. And then you have going public is the only other option. That's why we're seeing the corporatization of cannabis, because all of these companies that were able to go public and raise huge amounts of capital are able to squash any mom and pop with a couple licenses, because they can't get access to banks. They can't get access to serious capital except at huge interest rates, which don't allow them to grow because they aren't actually getting anything to their bottom line because they're paying everything in interest, right? And so that's squashing the ability for the small mom and pops to expand, while giving the corporates the ability to grow at exorbitant rates. And then you have even companies like mine, like CannaDevices, that is considered a tier 2 company. So we don't touch the plant, but more than 50% of our customers do touch the plant. So we're actually lumped in to that same rhetoric about not being able to get funding. So I found one bank here in Chicago that allows it. But most companies like mine are having to do that same problem, that same thing. And then they're having to compete with China, who don't have to do these loans, don't have all these things. It just sucks because it's not a pure competitive landscape. And it's really harming a lot of small business growth. Then, just to stay on my rant for just another second, I'm probably giving you more than you wanted. But when we have the federal legalization, now you remove the stigma of money getting into the industry. So now you're going to have huge money come in. And that's when we're going to have, that's going to make it even harder for small businesses to get ahead, because you're going to have companies coming in with 10, 50, $100 million funding that they can sell things at a loss for a couple of years while they build their footprint, right? And so that's what's so important about for us right now, is to build strategic alliances with other small businesses so that we can sort of take on Goliath when Goliath comes, you know?
Well, and that was my next question, was that if you guys get lumped into that. But I mean, that's insane. I guess it makes sense that, you know, because that 50% threshold of your clientele touching the plant. But still, I mean, to some extent, I think that's ridiculous as well. Just because, I mean, you guys aren't really doing that. I mean, technically, in a non-legal state, you guys would be making tobacco pipes.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I mean,
nothing that we do is, we're 50 states legal essentially through the loopholes. So it's like, you know, leave us alone. Let us get some funding, you know? Yeah, it's interesting.
So are you originally from Colorado?
Originally from Chicago, then moved out to Colorado. I lived in Arizona for a bit too, and then came back home. You know how we are in Illinois. You always end up back here. Doesn't matter how long you go away, you come back to family. So yep.
Yeah. So, but okay. So you stopped using marijuana at the time, like probably right before the concentrates got big, right? Like the pens and things like that. What are your thoughts on that versus for someone who, I mean, have you used those before?
Way back when they first started. You know, we were actually messing around. I remember, so like the whole, I don't know if you guys remember the Dome and nail sets that used to come out. So this is going way back, but there was this like a nail, and you would heat the nail, you'd put the concentrate on, you put a dome over it.
Yeah.
And I remember my teacher coming in and being like, he goes to his toolbox and he grabs a nail and he's like, what am I supposed to do with this? This head shop wants a dome and nail set. Like we didn't even know what was going on. But then, you know, we've now evolved to, you know, bangers and things like this. But so, yeah, I was a part of that very first wave. You know, we had dab paddles and things like that. They sold like hotcakes. It was crazy. We were able to knock these things out in like 3 minutes and sell for $10. Like we were all just like making money hand over fist. It was beautiful. It was a fun time. So, so I was messing with all those concentrates back then. You know, I still vape. So like I quit smoking cigarettes, but I vape nicotine. I think it's great that we have an on the go convenient fashion. But I do have to say I shouldn't say it, but it doesn't seem like you'll ever replace a nice rig hit though. It's still always going to be different. Something on the go is nice, but you know, what we can do with glass, it'll just never be replaced fully.
Yeah. Well, and I think with the concentrates and like the cartridges and things like that, my biggest concern before it was legalized, you know, when you were just getting it from some guy you knew through some other guy, and that would be, there wasn't a consistency about it. There were so many fillers. And now, I mean, even, you know, there's been reports of showing up in dispensaries where they still have those fillers that probably aren't the best. And the one thing I did see was that PAX was coming out with something to read they like has their own cartridge. It scans it and you can read it on your phone. Nice. Is there anything that CannaDevices is, you know, looking at to move to that, to make sure, you know, like kind of verify that what you're doing, you know, you got a legit thing?
So a lot of that goes towards the cultivation side. We do have some products that we service to the cultivation and processing side of the dispensary. I mean, if it's out there, that's like we were talking about the good, better, best, and something that's important and a great mission behind it. I would love to be carrying something like that. We're actually in conversations with possibly talking with PAX soon here. So I appreciate that insight. I had missed that headline. I'm going to be looking into it.
Yeah, definitely. Because that when that came out, when I first told my parents that I smoked weed, they were like, oh well, I heard, so and so, and they got, I heard on the news, I read in the paper, someone, had some fillers or whatever, got sick, and now they're in the hospital or whatever from just a off the street cart.
Right.
And then when that came out, that was the first call I made was to my mom. I was like, "Ha, look at that." I was like, some things, are gonna end up being, safe. Like they're gonna end up being a lot safer than you thought. So I just think it is cool that we can now open up the conversation to more things like that. Just there's not as much of a stigma behind smoking pot or things like that.
And that's what I know that dispensaries charge the tax, and and quality isn't quite so what like a nice craft grow can be, but for the general public, a safe place to access the plant itself, to me, I think is the beauty of our industry. The 65, 75-year-old grandma that's never smoked but has Parkinson's or can't sleep, that can go to a dispensary. She's not going to go to some concert and meet some dude that's got some fucking super headies and start slinging bags with him. That's just not going to happen. But they would never have access to that stuff without the corner store, right? And so I think what you're talking about there for the general public is what's so amazing about our industry, and how many more people we're touching as a result and helping better their lives. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I have a very important question. I think when people come to you and say, Chris, we love your glass, my pipe or my bowl is tremendous, but what do you recommend to clean it with? What do you tell them?
So it depends. Are they a friend or a customer?
Both.
I'm just kidding. I used to always say salt and rubbing alcohol work great. So get some coarse salt, get some rubbing alcohol, put it in a bag, shake it around. And, that was what we used to use back in the day. It worked great. But again, when we're talking about that grandma that's 60 and she doesn't want to be getting all grimy and gross like that, we actually have some cleaner. There's some little compounds in it, but basically it's rubbing alcohol and some other stuff that you just soak your bowl in, let it sit there for an hour, pull it out, grab a tweezers, pull it out, put it under some water, rinse it out. You're good to go. The benefit and what is, when it comes to concentrates though, that's where you really do need that cleaner, because when you use the rubbing alcohol and salt type of technique, it just makes everything gooey and just gross. It doesn't actually clean it. So a lot of these cleaners are, a lot of them are pretty similar. 420 cleaner, Kush cleaner, R cleaner. It's all fairly similar stuff that's out there at this point.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And do you have any of the devices that you can show? I know we had talked about maybe demonstrating some, or I'm
going to send those to you. I'm going to send them to you, and you guys can play around with them whenever you guys.
All right. Yeah. Sounds good. We'll put some videos out there of us playing with them.
This one looks insane.
Yeah. The
chill. Here, I actually got. All right. Here, I got that right here.
Oh my! I'm literally drinking out of stainless steel. I didn't know I could smoke out of it too.
That's this guy.
Oh my gosh!
That's beautiful.
It also comes apart for easy cleaning.
Whoa!
All right, I want one. I'm sold. This is God. God wants one.
God wants
Oh,
one.
God wants one. Okay. Yeah, and then the slide's not in it and everything, but this is where the bowl is. Obviously, the slide goes in, and then there's a bowl. Yeah, this thing's pretty cool. It's stays cold for 24 hours. So you put the ice in there, and it just stays cold forever. Yeah, it's a pretty neat contraption. So it uses the same technology that what's it called? The Yeti. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it's for smoking.
We'll take 3.
Yeah,
take 3.
we will need 3 of those.
So I guess we can buy online, right? And then it'll ship.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we're in a
Yeah,
legal
we can make
state.
that happen for you. Don't even worry about it. We'll figure something out.
Honestly, you're the man.
So yeah, and then a couple of things that are not on the website, but just to show that I actually used to do this on a consistent basis. So this is one of my pieces. So this is a skull that my apprentice made, and then I put it all together.
That's awesome.
Oh my god.
And then this guy was a little collaboration with a gentleman named Schmitz Glass. So we put this together. Yeah, some cool, fun stuff. So it's not all proto. We got to have some fun sometimes.
So do you just have like shelves of all these pieces, or do you guys at like your maybe like home office or head glass blowing whatever? Do you just have a shelf of like all the creative ones you've made?
So any of the ones that I didn't sell, yeah. So like a lot of the ones that are like this is working with my apprentice. I'm never going to sell this thing. I don't care what, it's just not going to get sold. Same thing with this. This is just a really good buddy of mine. We got to throw down. So stuff like this that are like memories. At the top of our bench, it's like a 12-foot or 16-foot bench. We have all of our stuff at the top. So yeah, when you're working, it's right above your head. So
That's awesome. And I'm glad it's super high. No pun intended. Yeah, because like some dumbass like me would walk in and hit the shelf and 4 of them would fall off.
You're like, look at those 4 memories just shattered.
Yeah, that's usually what I do.
that'd be awful.
I'd probably politely ask you to leave at that point, but
I just swanton dive into the glass.
You're like, I think our website is a better option for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you guys are working on some big things. I know that you also do the branded glass for different customers, and you were talking about the safety behind that. Can you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually have one of those right here. So we can do like it's just a hitter, and then we can put a logo on there. And so what this is it's not a sticker. So you can scratch it; it doesn't come off. It's a ceramic ink that gets baked into the glass, and so ceramic is not going to melt at the temperature of a lighter, right? So you don't have any smoldering. There's no adhesive. There's nothing like that. We actually hand apply these. The pipe is made, and then we hand apply the decal. We bake it in a kiln at 1200 degrees, and then after that, it's finished. But it'll never come off. You just can't get this stuff off. Some of those really, really, really strong cleaners might take a little bit of the color off, but the logo itself, the whole thing won't ever leave. And so we do it this way because we find it to be the safest. There's no glue. There's nothing else because I don't know. Personally, huffing glue is not a good thing. And so
Jackson.
that's why we stick with the ceramic.
But yeah, no, I thought that was really cool because when I first met you, that was what you guys had out on the table. I actually still have mine. It's downstairs in our, we call it the green room.
Nice.
But it is, because I've had so many people hand things out like that to me before, but by like week 3 or 4, like it starts to fade. It starts to like the logo is not there anymore.
I've also never seen a company offer to make like custom logos on their pieces.
Right.
I haven't seen that.
I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, great giveaways. Yeah, I mean, you guys remember, you guys probably both, now you both know because you've been using it together, right? And it's a hell of a marketing tool. We really try to push that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you guys have the chill bong, the you guys have, I assume, a ton of glass bongs you were telling me about on our Zoom meeting, and then we had, and then you have the mills, grinders, everything that you can get at CannaDevices.com. And then, are you guys on social?
CannaDevices on Instagram, CannaDevices on LinkedIn. Those are the main socials that we're on, because the TikTok and all that, just they don't like us. We're just too cannabis related. Yeah, just get booted.
Yeah.
This piece is insane. The flowers.
Oh yeah. Yep. So those are ceramic. Those are ceramic pieces. They're really cool. The artist behind that is pretty incredible. She's got a whole line. Those are the ones that we carry. And then actually something that's pretty new, just announced, I think about 2 weeks ago, is we are the exclusive distributor of Jerome Baker now. Jerome Baker is someone that has been a part of the industry for 25 years, one of the biggest names in the industry as far as like the general market goes that know about him. He was involved with Pipe Dreams back in early 2000s when Cheech and Chong got busted, and that whole thing about pipes and glass got, I don't know if you guys know about it, but in 2002 there was a huge raid. He was one of those shops that got raided, and so now we get to carry his stuff, and we're the only distributor that does. So we're expanding some pretty cool ways. Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's
super cool. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Hell yeah.
All right, Chris. Well, it was awesome getting to talk to you. We will definitely stay in touch. And just one more time, they have literally everything you can think of on CannaDevices.com, and then CannaDevices on Instagram and Twitter, you said?
LinkedIn. Yeah.
And you can follow them and follow all of their products on Instagram, LinkedIn, and you can buy them for your own personal use on their website at CannaDevices.com. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. So most of it's B2B, but we also have a store locator for every one of the dispensaries that have our stuff. So that we're pretty much all over the country at this point. You can find us anywhere. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hell yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Great talking to you.
We had a pleasure talking to you, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
No, anytime.
Take care.
All right,
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Awesome. Later, guys.